In this YouTube video, I'm going to do an introduction to APEX coding with Salesforce. APEX is a Salesforce coding language, and here is the APEX developer guide on the Salesforce website. I'm doing everything based off of Learning Salesforce Development with APEX, an ebook on Kindle on Amazon. And before I actually go into it, I'm just going to introduce you to, so you can download the developer edition of Salesforce. In the web browser, you could just log in, create an account, and log into a developer trial. And this gives you access to creating custom objects, and it also lets you work with APEX code. So you can work with certain tabs and objects that you didn't have access to in the other trial that I showed you in my first Salesforce for Dummies video. So this is where you can sign up for the developer edition and how you can start working with APEX code. And I guess before I introduce APEX code, I'm just going to go over something that this book went over. So it mentions if you go to setup and then you search for company information, and you go bring up this page in the quick find, you basically just type in company information, then you double click here. So over here you get your organization ID, and you can see what kind of edition you have for your Salesforce, and you can see how much data space you've used out of the total and how much file space you've used out of the total. And then you could also see how many licenses you have. So like for Salesforce, I have 2 licenses. I've used 1 out of the 2. I'm in trial edition. So you can see like all the different user licenses and feature licenses that you have available and that you can assign to different users. And I go over like how to create users and assign user licenses and feature licenses to the different users in my user creation video. Salesforce, they have like approximately like this amount of data available for each of the editions. Here are the Salesforce editions. Developer is what I'm working with right now. And you got like professional, enterprise, performance, etc. And basically it tells you like how much storage capacity you have. You could also purchase or increase your storage if you need additional storage capacity from Salesforce, so that's possible too. And now I'm just gonna go over like APEX code. So let me just open up this. So APEX code is pretty cool because you can basically create like an unlimited amount of records and assign different restrictions to different fields and assign and create new records. And there's like a whole order of operations where you can basically, let me open up this book. There's like a whole like save order of execution operations for the different triggers in it. So you can like do it before a record is inserted. You can do like an update trigger. You can do like an after delete trigger. So there's like so many different like triggers, which I'm not going to go over because I'm still learning about them. And like there's a whole like order of operations for like when you can update records that you're adding to the database, or that you're re-adding to the database, or modifying in the database. So Salesforce is built using Java, and I guess APEX is very similar to Java in how it's written, and it also basically uses SQL, which is Salesforce SQL. So a lot of the coding concepts within like VBA or SQL or Java are very, very similar to APEX. APEX has all the same kind of data types like double and integer, and you can like work with like different loops and stuff like for while, and it has like similar loops and increments and similar kind of logic. It also works with variables. So like the variables it works with, it's kind of like exactly the same. And then similar to I guess Java, it has like classes and it has triggers. So and similar to like I guess like some versions of SQL, it has like triggers. And yeah, so now I'm just going to I guess, yeah, so whenever you, like all the different objects in Salesforce, if you go to like setup and you go to setup, so if you go to object manager, here are like all the different objects that you have within Salesforce. And whenever you create an object, you basically, the name for it is, like here's an object I created. I created a custom object called Invoice. And over here, the name and how I'll reference it in Apex, it has a double underscore and then C, which indicates custom. So anytime you create a field, like let me just click in my custom invoice object. Invoice, I guess, is the same thing as like an account object. So like you have like the account object, say like, let me just go to my service app. So you got like accounts, contacts, dashboards, reports, etc. So basically, these are all the different objects or tabs within Salesforce. You have accounts and contacts. So basically, what I did is I created a custom object called Invoice, and then obviously it appears up here as invoices because that's the plural. So I created a custom object called Invoice, and then on the tab that I created, I basically added it to my navigation pane, which I'll show you how to do. So in your object manager, basically I created my own kind of object, which was a custom object called Invoice. So I'm going to click in Invoice, and it mentions that it's a custom object, obviously, right here. Let me just show where it says that. So it says custom object right here. I guess it says the date it was created. So I'm going to open up Invoice and then go to Fields and Relationships. So these are all the fields that were a part of it when it was created automatically. So created by, name, last modified by ID, and owner ID. Those were all the field names that were created initially. And then obviously the fields that I created myself, like amount _ C and opportunity _ C, it automatically adds an _ C to denote that it's a custom field that I created, which I'll also show you how to do in a little bit. So I guess if you want to create your own object, you go to setup, or you click up here and go to setup. And basically over here under create, if you're in a developer edition of Salesforce, you'll see create custom object. If you're in the other trial version, you won't be able to create your own custom object. So you're going to create an invoice object, custom object. So here for the label, you just type invoice. And then for the plural label, you type invoices. This will be the name that displays on the navigation pane. And over here under object name, it says invoice is the object name. And over for record name, it'll have invoice name. The record name appears in page layouts, key lists, related lists, lookups, and search results. Yeah, so basically, I'm just going to click save, and well, obviously for me it says the object is already in use because I already created the invoice object, but for you it just created the custom object invoice. So now when you go to setup, you have you go to object manager, you now have the same kind of custom object that I have right here. So now click on fields and relationships, and we're going to create 2 custom fields for this custom object. So just go to new to create new fields, and you're going to create a number field. I go over field creation and the different types of formulas and functions and the different types of fields in my formulas and functions Salesforce video. So in this custom field, you're going to call it amount, and the length of the amount of digits is 18, 0 decimal places. And basically you're going to click next and then save it. You're going to click next. You're going to click, I'm just going to do amount 2 because I want to show you the next page, but you're just going to do amount. I already did this, so I'm going to press next. You're going to enter amount though, specifically, and then you click visible, and then you click next, and then you click save and new to create a new, like another column. You're going to make a second column. And then for this one, you select text, and here I'm going to write opportunity 2, but you're going to write opportunity 1, and then you're going to press next. Length for the text, put like 150. That's how many characters can be in it. And then click visible, and then click next, and then click save. So now you should have a column called opportunity, like me, like that, and then you should have another column called amount, like that. So you just created a custom object called invoice, and you created 2 columns in that, one which is a number column and one which is a text column. The number column is called amount, and the text column is called opportunity. So now to go back to your normal view, go back to service. So basically now what you're going to do is you're going to create your own custom app. So you're going to click this gear and go to setup. And actually, before creating the app, you're going to create a tab. So here, type in tab, and then go to tabs. And right here, you're just going to press new. And for custom object, you're going to select invoices or invoice. And then for the tab title, just select like a bell so you could differentiate it from the other invoice. Yeah, just like select a bell, and then click next. I'm just gonna humor myself and just add a bell to a track. You're doing the object as invoices that you just created, and press next. And then make it visibility to all the profiles. You can make it so it's not visible to certain profiles. Press next, and you include the tab. If you don't know what a profile is, then you can watch my user video. So here, now you have a custom tab called invoices, based on the invoices object, custom object that you made. So now you're going to go over to click up here, and then go to your service. So now you still it's not there. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go to your gear, click setup, and under here you're going to click apps and app manager. So now you're going to create a custom app. The apps are basically these circles up here, and the service app over here is basically what, like the home navigation, the chatter, accounts, contacts. So this is like the service app. These are all the tabs and objects assigned to the service app. So you're going to create your own app, which you'll be able to access by clicking these circles up here. And then you're going to add that invoices tab that we just created, which is based on the custom object invoice. And then you're going to also add in another tab that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go back to where I was. So basically you click the setup, you go to setup, and then down here you under or up here you search app manager. So now we're going to create an app. So you go to new lightning app, and for the name of the app, I'm just going to call it like custom app 2. And then you could upload an image for your app. So I'm just going to go to like my desktop. I'm just going to do like PowerPoint logo, and I'm going to press next. So I go over all these different options in my Salesforce for Dummies Part 2 video, and it's not important. So you can press next. Utility item, they appear at the bottom of the screen when you add them, and I didn't mention that in my Salesforce for Dummies 2 video because I didn't know that, but now I do. So you press next, and then here what we're going to do is you're going to add the invoices object that you made, obviously as a bell because you selected the bell tab to differentiate from the other default invoices tab, and you're going to add this over, and then you're going to go over to opportunities, and you're going to add this object over, and you're going to press next. And then for the available profiles, just do system administrator because you're a system administrator, because you're the account that created your Salesforce instance, and press save and finish. So you click this apps up here, and you go to view all, and you search for custom app 2 and select custom app or whatever. So now you have this invoices up here, and you have the opportunities up here. So here are all the different opportunities that you'll see. These are just click up here and go to all opportunities and pin it so you can see this, and then go to your invoices, and I want you to click your gear here and select fields to display, and then just click over amount and then click over opportunity like that, and then click save and go to like all and pin it. So right now there are no invoices currently, and now I'm going to start showing you how to create Apex code. So to create Apex code, you click this gear and you go to your developer console, and here is basically the developer console, which you can use to write Apex classes and Apex triggers, and you can like test run all the different test classes that you build. And so basically you go to, let me close that out. So basically you go to new and you type in Apex trigger, and then for the name you're going to type date trigger. So you're going to type in date trigger, and then for the object you're going to do contacts, and you're going to click submit, and you'll be brought over to a screen that looks like this, except yours will look like that. So basically you're going to type in this text right here, and so what this does is on the contact object, before the insert operation happens, so before the data is added to the database, we're going to do a for loop. And I'm not really going to go over the basics of Apex in this. I'm just going to show you like 3 cool things that Apex can do, and then my next video I'm going to go over all the different like specifics of Apex and like what this entire developer console, like how to navigate it and stuff. But for now I'm just going to show you 3 different examples. So what this basically does is this is a for loop, and then on the contact object, which we're going to give an alias as con, so later on when we reference it we don't have to write out contact, we could just write con and then dot and then reference the field names. So with con, basically it's going to do like a trigger dot new, and here I just create a date variable, and here is the name of the date variable for birthday, and I set this variable equal to date dot new instance and 2020 12 20 25, and then with the contact table and the field birth date I set it equal to that variable. So basically whenever someone creates a new contact, it automatically references this trigger, and it makes the birth date 12/25/2020 whenever you create a new contact. So I'm going to go over here to like the service tab, and I'm going to go to contacts, and I'm going to press new. So now you basically fill in the required fields as like whatever, and then click save. Oh, just ignore that, you won't see that, but yeah, basically press save and go to contacts, and so it fills in it'll fill in like 12/25/2020 for you if you basically just wrote what I did. I have another before insert, so mine wrote 12/26/2020, but you get the picture. And so basically anytime you create a new contact now, it'll automatically have this value. So that's how you could set like a default value for something, just based on an Apex trigger. So now I'm going to go into a new example, and I mean when you're done with it you basically press save, and I guess down here if you have any problems with your code, then you'll see problems down here, and then like I guess some examples of like problems would be like you forget like a semicolon at the end, and then let me just wait for the problem to generate. So down here it says missing semicolon at line 5. So this is like line 4/5. Basically put a semicolon there. And then click and then wait like a few seconds. And then that problem will disappear because the semicolon's there now. And then another example would be like forgetting like this like last open bracket. So let me delete out one open bracket. And obviously I have two open brackets here. I have one up here and one up here. So it says expecting a closing open bracket, because you got to close all the brackets that you do. So I'm going to close out the bracket. And then, yeah, so basically click save when you're done with your date trigger and you can close it out. And now if you want to create a new Apex trigger, so now in the second example, I'm going to show you you're going to call it, I guess, mobile trigger. And it's going to be with contacts again, the contact object. You're going to click submit. And I already have a mobile trigger, so I'm going to open up mine. So obviously the name that you type for it appears here, mobile trigger, and then it's on this object, and the trigger is before the insert. So I mean, there's like before update, there is like after insert, after delete, before, like there's so many different triggers, and I don't even fully understand how to code it yet, but I understand what each of them are for now. So what this code accomplishes, I mean, obviously your screen is going to look like this, but you could just type in all the stuff that I have here, and obviously this is a single quote right here, single quote right here, and you're just going to type in all this stuff. So what this code will do is whenever you create a new contact, if in the contact table, if the phone field equals null and the mobile phone field equals null, it'll add an error message that will say phone or mobile must have a value. And then if they aren't both null, then if the phone equals null and the mobile phone doesn't equal null, then it sets the phone in the contacts table equal to whatever the mobile phone value is. So basically, if they're both null, then it has an error message. If phone is null and mobile phone isn't null, then it sets phone equal to the mobile phone. So basically, if you enter a phone number, then it won't be based on the mobile phone. But if you enter a mobile phone number and you don't enter a phone number, then it'll make the phone number the mobile phone number. And then if you leave them both blank, then it just will throw an error message and it won't let you create a new contact. So basically fill this out, you have no problems, click file and save, and then you go to new and you're under contacts on the contacts object. So for the last name, you're just going to enter a last name, you're not going to enter any phone number, and you're going to click save. So now you see phone or mobile must have a value, which is this error message right here. So that's how you can require certain fields from Apex, and you could base it based on two fields. So it won't just be like one required field, it'll be like two required fields. And then I guess, alright, so now I'm going to fill in the mobile phone, and being that I'm only filling in the mobile phone, that means phone is null and mobile phone isn't null, so that's true. So it'll set the phone equal to the mobile phone value. So I'm just going to fill in mobile, click save, and then go to my contacts, and I mean, here's the phone value, and let me just enable mobile phone in my fields to display. Scroll down to mobile phone, which is called mobile, and you're at it. So it automatically set the mobile phone equal to the phone value. Well, it set the phone value equal to the mobile value because there wasn't a phone value. So now if you go to new and you actually type in like the phone value up here, click save, mobile won't get a value because you entered a phone value, so this wasn't true, like the phone isn't null. In this case, it tests if it is null, and then if mobile phone isn't null, then it sets phone equal to whatever the mobile phone is. But in this case, I guess, which I already just did, I'll do like mobile phone number without a phone number, and the phone will just get set to whatever the mobile phone is. See? So that's how that kind of works. So you can work with like required fields, make 2 fields required, and also set certain values based on other values with triggers. And in the last example, you're gonna click save when you're done, and then close this out, and file, new Apex trigger. And for this one, you're gonna call it. Oh, and I guess before I go any further, I'm just gonna reference the field names again. So notice how you have like the phone, like you're on the contacts object, and you got like the phone, and then you got mobile over here. So if you go to like your setup, and you go to object manager, and you go to contact and field and relationships, if you scroll down to mobile, see how like mobile, it says mobile phone here. So when you're writing the code, you reference the field name as mobile phone instead of mobile. So you always base it off of not just the name of the field, you base it off of whatever the field name is in your object manager. So I guess let me open up my developer console again, and then open up that code. So mobile trigger. So notice how I referenced the field as mobile phone, which was the field name. So you base the code field names for the tables that you're referencing off of field name. And then let me close that out, and then I'll just open up this last thing. So you're going to create another, you're going to press new Apex trigger, and for this one you're going to call it opportunity trigger, and you're going to select opportunity for this one and click submit, and basically you're going to get brought over to something that looks like this, and you're going to replace before insert with after update, because it's going to be an after update trigger. So you're going to fill in all this code here, and I guess I'll walk through this code. Actually, I'll just show you what it does, and then I'll walk through it. So on your custom app, I mean, you have like the invoices is blank, and then you have the opportunities over here. So basically what this code does, if you already wrote it out, is anytime you reach a final stage, so anytime you reach the final stage with an opportunity, closed won, because when you reach the final stage, it could be closed won or closed lost. Whenever it equals closed won, it generates 3 invoices. So Apex, it can kind of interlink your different tab or your different objects and create records based on values in other objects. That's why Apex is so useful, because you can basically scale anything up, and you can basically use the power of looping and iterating to basically just have the computer generate records and interlink and work with all of the different interrelated objects. Because I mean, before I show you like the opportunities generating invoices, if you go up here to settings, go to setup, and you go to object manager, and then you select an object. If you go to forgot where the schema thing is. Schema builder. So if you go to schema builder, you kind of see like how everything is interconnected. So you go to like your standard objects, and I mean you could see like how like the user is like related to like the task. So basically like all these different tabs you have, they're like so linked together. Like you got like all these different tables are all linked together, and you could basically reference and work with all these different objects within Salesforce, and they all like all these different strings are just connected, and it's just like all these different things. And so if you go to opportunities, and I'm going to switch back to standard table view. So basically you're going to click on one opportunity, and you're going to, I already closed this one, stage closed one, so I'm going to go to edge, and I'm going to basically click here and then select the closed stage, and I'm going to select it as closed one, obviously, and click save. So this opportunity was 1. So now you go to invoices, and this code that you wrote out here, it basically generates 3 records using the ID of the opportunity as the invoice name, and then it makes the amount based on the opportunity, the amount that was in the opportunity times 0.5. So I guess the opportunity that we closed was this one, so it was like 75K. And if you go back to, where was I, invoices? Yeah, so 75K. So you go back to invoices, and I guess the first opportunity was like 0.5 of a third, so of a third of it, so it was like 17.500, and then the other one was 17.500, and you add those two together, and that's like 35,000, and then the other one's 0.2 of a third, so it's like 7,000. And I mean, if you did like 0.5 of all three, it's like 17.5 times 3. Yeah, so basically you could do like math with like the different columns too. And how this works is, I mean, Apex has lists and it has sets, and lists are basically arrays, in the same thing as arrays in like VBA or in Java. And basically with this, you basically go into a for loop, and with the opportunity table, you use an alias as OPP, and you do like a new trigger. So if the opportunity table dot the stage name field equals closed 1, so if it equals the value closed 1 and the old map, it basically, you use a get something, I forget what it's called, it's like a get method or something, and you basically get the opportunity ID from like the ID field, and from dot stage name if it doesn't equal closed 1. So if the opportunity status stage name goes to closed 1 and the old value of it, like the old map is basically what the value was before it changed, if that doesn't equal closed 1, then you want this to execute because this is an if statement. So basically that is true because it equals closed 1. And now basically, obviously I have double underscore here because we're working with a custom object. We're working with invoice underscore C, because you made that custom invoice object before. So you could do invoice underscore C, and then the first invoice is just a variable that you create, and you make it equal new invoice, and you do so first invoice variable dot amount underscore underscore C, because you're working with the amount field that you created, and being that it is a custom field, it has 2 underscores, so first invoice dot amount underscore underscore C equals the opportunity amount times 0.5, and then the first invoice dot opportunity underscore underscore C, so you made the opportunity field so it has 2 underscores, equals opportunity ID, which is this field, and then new invoices, which is up here, so you're adding it to that list. You add the first invoice, which is what you created over here as a variable for this invoice. So basically you add the first invoice as a variable to the list of invoices, and then at the end you insert all the new invoices that you create into your invoices records. So then you basically do the second invoice and you do the same steps, and then you do the third invoice and then you insert them. So that's basically what Apex can do. It can do so much, and it can handle record updates and column updates, and it's basically very similar to the workflow rules and the process builder and like the escalation rules in Salesforce, which I go over in my Salesforce for Dummies Part 2 video, but it has a lot more customization and scalability, and you can work with many different objects and link them all together. So that's why it's like a very useful Java or SQL-like language that can let you work with all the different objects. So thank you for watching my video.